July 28th. The time of this recording is 6:20 p.m. here. The Dow finished up 1% today. The S&P finished flat. Nasdaq flat. Nasdaq 100 finished down 1%, and the Russell 2000 finished up 0.20%. Basically flat. Let's get into it to see what happened here today. So today we still did not. We still are below our institutional support here on the Qs. One thing that I found interesting here was that we did sweep and we did undercut under here. And if you remember last time here, and if you remember my last videos, make sure to subscribe and make sure to watch all the videos. They all really do tie together. Sometimes if you're watching one video, what I'm saying right here may not make sense. I really try to provide that educational value for people, so that way you kind of have an understanding of like what Wall Street is thinking. So you undercut here, and if you remember yesterday from my video here, right, are we going to undercut and retest here, right? Undercut, right? We're back above here, retest, break out or break down. Right here we have a doji right here, so like sort of like an indecision candle here. And obviously tomorrow we're going to find out, via FOMC, what's going to happen here with the market. I think things that we have to be mindful of tomorrow are we don't just have FOMC, right? We also have earnings that are coming up here, right? So we have after hours, you have Meta, Microsoft, Starbucks. On Thursday, we have Apple after hours. Then we have Amazon after hours. And then we have also ARM, Zom, and then Chevron here. Today, earnings that popped up were STX here, Seagate, basically 7% beat, and it's up 8% currently after hours. And essentially the number that basically stood out to everybody was the Q4 revenue was 3.63 billion, which was a 48% increase year over year. The EPS was 5.71 versus what they were expecting at 5.10, and their non-GAAP margins were 52.7%, up 1,480 basis points from a year ago. And then their guide for Q1 revenue was 4.1 billion versus expected 3.75 billion by the street. And their EPS was 7.3 versus 5.87 here. So basically, it was 26 above, consensus here. Just a massive beat overall. We also had Bloom Energy here, up 12% after hours at the time of this recording here. And basically, that was the print of the night. They had their first billion-dollar revenue quarter here at 1.06 billion versus the estimated by the streets 816 million that was supposed to come here, with an EPS of 0.78 versus 0.40. And they also raised guidance, so looking at a 3.9 to 4.2 billion about, so basically 100% year over year. Okay, so and also on the day here, they're obviously 11% down, but now they're kind of back up. There's some other ones here that I don't really care to talk about. But let me get back into the charts here. So the Qs are still down here. Kind of what happened here today was we did undercut, and candidly, we did catch some really good moves here on the market today. We got ourselves a bit in a pickle here in the Discord here with the drawdown, but we were able to work ourselves through that. Check the video at the end to see the real live trade recap, to see how we kind of managed that trade here for a couple of hours when it wasn't really fun here to begin with. Anybody that tells you that they win all the time, they're full of shit. But we really do try to do our best to make sure that we're all prepared. We do have a possible inverse head and shoulders here on the Qs. Here's your left, here's your head. Maybe come back up here, create a bullish channel here. Maybe grab your right short of liquidity. One thing that I'm very proponent on and that I love to teach here is that no pattern's the same here, right? This inverse head and shoulders can look like this, right? Another inverse head and shoulder can look like this, all the way down here, very deep, maybe all the way down here, right? They're all the same thing here, right? You can have another one that looks like this, just almost perfect, okay? So you have to be open-minded to the possibilities of patterns and how they work here. Going over here to the NVIDIA chart here, we have that bearish engulfing candle here. We haven't gotten back quite to that 50% line here, but at least the bleeding stopped. Also, again, we still have that valid head and shoulders here, left, head, right, but also you look at it from a different perspective here, right? You still have a technically left, right? Maybe here's your head, maybe here's your right short of liquidity, right? Again, there's no set pattern here that you have to follow. It's about how you have to be creative here, right? Read structure, read chart patterns, understand the macro, right? The fundamental, right? And the technical. I'm going to talk about it almost every video that I make because it's super important, right? What we're talking about here is the technicals right here for NVIDIA, right? Well, what's the macro, right? What's the fundamental, right? Well, NVIDIA brings all these chips together, which I think are scams, right? But what's the macro use, right? What's going on macroly speaking? So in order to understand why a chart's moving the way it's moving, you have to understand the 3 pillars of trading here. You can't just look at the chart here and be like, okay, calls here, right? And you can't just pick one stock, right? Like let's say you pick Tesla and you pick Carvana here, right? So you have Tesla, you have Carvana, right? Tesla's down, right? Or you're gonna go over here to a different stock here and try to go long on Carvana, right? Because your favorite stock Tesla's down, right? That's not how the market works, right? What is the why? The macro, right? Okay, the what, the why, the fundamental, what's the use case, right? And then obviously the technicals, right? Tesla's bearish, Carvana's bearish, what time frames, right? Are we talking 1 minute, right? Are we talking 5 minutes? Are we talking 15 minutes? And kind of so forth here, okay? So really nothing to note here on Tesla, or excuse me, on Nvidia here. If you just drop a fib line here on our daily, we still obviously don't have that institutional support here. Maybe a next level up here that we should mark here is 203. We really want to get above that wall. And overall, right, that 200 wall, we really want to get it back above as well. These charts are starting to look the same here. If we just come off the charts here for a second, just look at the chart. So you're going to hide all. So you look at this chart right here, okay? And then you go back here to the Qs. Okay, just we can delete everything here, right? So look at the Qs here, right? Go back to Nvidia here, right? We practically have the same chart, not just with Nvidia, not just with the Qs, right? Go to Micron as well, same chart here. Go to SOX, same chart here, right? And obviously these are in the same sectors, right? But you also have different sectors that basically have what? The same exact chart. So it's some of those, sometimes I tell people it's some of those small observations that we try to make as traders. Sometimes we turn on all the indicators, right? So if I turn on all my indicators, right, what am I gonna see? Well, maybe not much here, but if I turn on everything else, right, let me just turn these on here. Sometimes you get all like these fair value gaps and you get all these buy, sell signals, right? I don't really think you need signals, to be frank with you. I really think you just need to learn structure, and that's like what I'm a big proponent on. So if we just come off the chart here, it's very clear that I can observe what? We have the same chart here, and some are worse, right? We have the same chart here. If I go over here to Bloom Energy, right, go here to the daily, and again, Bloom Energy had a blowout earnings quarter here, gapped up about 11% after hours. Looks like it's coming down a bit here, so a little bit concerning. It's up 7% here after hours. It was up initially 11.34% after hours as well. Come over here to Nibius, right? Again, same exact charts here. My levels haven't changed, right? This is the same exact chart here, right? Here, okay, market, here, market, here, market, here, market, here, okay? And that's why I tell people we need to be really careful. A lot of people, they try to rush into, you know, the market, and you know they're panicking. Maybe I'm not going to be able to get a chance to get involved. Maybe I'm going to miss a drop here. But again, if you go over here just to the SPY right here, which we're still holding 55 EMA institutional support here, so your wall has actually moved up here, right? So again, also the same chart here, right? Not as bad, but it's not great, right? And so I lead with this to say two things here. Within a few minutes, I've kind of described to you, kind of showing you a few charts here with the NASDAQ. Again, with our kind of 55 EMA institutional line, right? We don't have that, right? So we have net sellers. Net sellers are what? What it sounds like? Selling, right? We don't have net buyers. Net buyers looks like this. Net selling looks like this. If there's ever going to be something you're going to remember, right? Net selling looks like this, okay? And net buying looks like this, right? So what are they showing you right now? We don't have net buying. So we don't have to rush to start a swing here when you look at here at the market and you're having stocks that are moving down 11%, 12%, 15%, right? These are very, very difficult plays. And one thing that I find that a lot of traders are wanting you want these big, massive plays. And I'm saying, guys, we have to be patient. You know, if we rush into a play here, right? We rush into a SanDisk play because you really think SanDisk is a good buy. Well, what's going to happen here, right? It's going to implode, right? Excuse me, you're going to implode, right? I don't know about you, but it doesn't matter how much money you have or how little money you have, right? Swinging a stock here overnight, you have to have like a really like strong stomach, right? Because when you wake up at market open, your position might be right down 50%, and you have like 3 months left. That's how these stocks are moving right now. So we have to be really careful, and we have to be really cognizant. Going back over here to earnings, I expect some barcodes and some things that you should expect here for FOMC that I tell people that you really need to be careful for. Typically on FOMC days, we chop, right? We are expecting rate hikes, so I think the market's shrugging that off or they're not prepared for it. I also do think that maybe the Fed is going to lie about the reasons for that, right? They're going to blame oil, but it's really about Japan. If you take a look at the USD JPY here, it's starting to skate on thin ice, right? That's the yen. That's the Japanese yen, right? So they're gonna blame, right, oil for raising, for doing a rate hike if they do, but it's really because of this. If you're gonna remember again anything else from this video, it's this key thing here. They're gonna blame oil if they do, but it's really about Japan and their yen carry trade, right? Going back over here to Nibius here. So again, one kind of way you can avoid getting in a pickle like we did this morning is kind of what I mentioned yesterday in this video, right? You have net selling, of course. You really don't have any buyers here. You might have an inverse head and shoulder here set up. Again, we're on the 1 minute time frame. The 1 minute is able to, on the 1 minute time frame, excuse me, you're able to see a different perspective, right? When you click like a daily or a 2 hour, 1 hour, maybe even 30 minutes, it's very hard to kind of see what's happening here underneath the hood, right? So you have bearish pendants here, right? Trap, bearish pendants, right? Flags, trap, another bearish pendants here, trap, flag. But now you possibly have a double bottom here, right? Not a clean one, right? You have an undercut here, right? But you do have a bearish pendant here. Well, what have they been doing? Trap, sell, right? Even trap here, trap, sell, trap, all right? Are they going to sell here? So you do have a possible inverted cup here, right? So right here, you have a left, you have your head, you have your right shoulder here. If I'm going long on a stock like this right now, financial advice, right? My stop loss would be right under here. The mistake people make though is, right, with that same logic, they're getting involved with that thought process during the day when you're going down like 11 or 10%, right? The problem with that is you have to wait for this to play out. I don't want to get involved with something that's just with a falling knife here, right? I want to wait till maybe things cool off, right? Maybe you have some good ERs today, which it sounds like we did. But which, by the way, it doesn't look like the market's really responding to that. So we finished up, or down rather, 1% here today on the NASDAQ. But here, after hours, right, we're down 0.4% here, right? So not really well received by the market. Again, what are they waiting for? FOMC here. And then we're waiting also for earnings. We have Microsoft, right? We have Meta. Those are the names you really want to watch for tomorrow. And if you remember Microsoft's last earnings, what happened here? Let's go ahead and pull up Microsoft. Microsoft's last earnings, right? Let's find it here. Earnings was here. Let's see here. They had an earnings that was really bad. Was it right here? One of their last earnings was just really, really bad here. So the last earnings was like not great, but it definitely wasn't this. So this is one thing that I am paying attention to. One thing that I think might happen to a lot of retail traders is, right, a lot of people get confused like why stocks maybe go up and or down on earnings when they beat. Really, for me, what it comes down to is free cash flow, okay? And what is your guidance regarding free cash flow, okay? Also, what is your guidance for your outlook, right? Are you increasing capex, but then you're losing cash flow? So, right, you're spending more, but you're losing it, right? Or are we making more cash on hand and maybe even spending less, right? It's those little details here, right? A lot of people don't know what FCF is, that's fine. But that's where I tell people, we really have to make that conscious decision as traders to learn and figure out what the market is doing and why. And again, some of these details here only take us about a few minutes. You can just type into AI over here, like, hey, what's going on with earnings over here? Make yourself your own report and figure out what's going on. But a lot of people, I don't think that they're willing to put the time in. And I think that really does hurt retail investors here. It's the difference between being positive and negative, and that's what I'm very passionate about every day. We always have the opportunity to exit for profits. Most of us, right, we're biased. I'm in a market right now where it can't be biased, right? We have SanDisk over here that nobody thought this would happen to, right? But where are we at here? Nobody thought this would happen with SanDisk. But where are we at now here, right? Nobody thought we would get here, right? We still have a lot of room down. People forget that this is at 2,000. I'm sorry, but this should have never been up there. And a lot of people are going to disagree with that. And my whole entire thought process here is no different from how people think that stocks can't go all the way up, right? They go long up here because, right, it can never come down. It's no different from how people, right, will watch this chart go all the way down and they can't believe it, right? Don't be on the losing side, right, when it trades sideways, right? That's why it's important to use those macros, those fundamentals, and those technicals, right? Technically speaking, right, you have divergences here, right? Divergence, 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 right? Okay, head and shoulders, evening star reversal here, lowercase h up here, right? Very, very, very bearish. So the chart that I like to show people a lot is, you know, when you pull up like several different stocks, right, what happens? So if you pull up like MSTR, so we pull up like these 6 different stocks here, and pull up MSTR, okay? We pull up Oracle, right? We pull up Coinbase, and I know SpaceX is a new IPO, but the principle's the same, right? And let's pull up even Micron, I guess, or gold. The same mistake traders make, right, again, is they don't think that it can come all the way down, but that's not true. So the hard part that a lot of traders, the hard part that they run into, right, is they're not paying attention to the charts, right? They're forgetting that, like, what's history showing you, right? What is history showing you, right? It's the same stock, it's the same thing over, right, and over, right, right, and over. Again, if it's not MSCR, if it's not Oracle, if it's not Coinbase, if it's not SpaceX, right, it's Adobe. Well, I guess Adobe's just so bullish now, right? Because Adobe's up $50 here, right? I mean, this is insane, right? I thought software was bearish. I thought cloud was taking over, right? So all you have in the market here is rotation. You have winners and losers, but sometimes you have losers for years, decades, sometimes, right? Right? You had Intel for basically, right, how many years, right? And where's Intel at now? Intel had this insane run. Wow, looks like almost the same thing here, right? And then where are you at here, right? Right back where you started. I mean, not quite right. I mean, you had a ridiculous run up here, but you have so much room, more room down. People refuse to believe Intel can come all the way back down here to like 35. But it's the same people who can't believe that, right, that'll be holding some of these calls up here for gold, for MicroStrategy, for Oracle, right? I mean, just shoot. Pull up even Bitcoin, right? Pull up Bitcoin, right? Pull up crypto, right? How's crypto doing? Not hot, right? Right? Not great. So this is where I tell people you really have to make a decision as a trader to look at these charts to understand, you know, from a technical perspective, right? If we're not sure of what we're talking about, we have to do just a bit of due diligence here to kind of research some of these terms maybe and ask for help, right? Help is the difference of, right, you know, making profits or compounding your losses. And right now, what I see here in the market is a lot of people are compounding losses. Going over here to oil, we had a gap up here in oil today. So again, go figure here that, you know, we did reject and close below our 55. Well, let me just double check that. What we closed here is we closed above our 55-day EMA here. So again, oil is creeping back up here. That's a problem, right? That's macro, right? So we're understanding maybe why the market's going down. Was anybody talking about oil today? Was anybody mentioning how oil gapped up 4% today? That's not what you want to see in a healthy market here, right? We have all these different political issues going on, geopolitical, excuse me, rather. So what's going to happen with oil? What's going to happen with Iran? So far, we have no progress. All we have is hopes, prayers, and quite frankly, lies, right? We're talking about how AI is so amazing, et cetera, right? People forget, right? Just look at the chart, look at the history, right? You have your pops and bangs, but don't get caught at the top getting banged on, right? So, I mean, when we talk about a healthy market, people say pullbacks, and yeah, from a technical perspective, sure. But when you start to see mass selling, like actual panic, people are panicking, that's not great, right? AMD is below its 55 EMA support. Again, coming back here to stocks, it's definitely below its 55 EMA support. It's up here about like 540 or so. So these are the things that we really have to start paying attention to. That way we can be prepared for the market open, right? I always tell people, right, you know, if you're going to the market open with cold feet, do athletes go into games cold? No, they prep before practice, right? They don't just study a chart or watch a YouTube video for 5 minutes, right? They have to do what? Put in the work. So one, you don't get injured, aka blowing your count, right? Right? During the market hours, this is a test, right? What are you doing outside of the test? Are you studying, right? Are you looking at charts, right? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 charts open here, right? And I have a lot more actually as well. Going over here to the NASDAQ and after hours, really not much, just kind of flat here. We do have a bear flag. We have an inverse head and shoulders here that's formed, but we also have a head and shoulders here as well. Um, we're having here in the market is, right, I keep saying it and I'm gonna say it every time I get on stream, we have no leaders, right? So, right, it's cool that software is catching a bid here, right? But the problem here, right, is first off, you have your wall right here. So right here, 101 is your wall right here. It's your call wall. We do need to push past that to confirm a reversal of conditions here, to be bullish here. Even past that, right, you're still not out of the woods here. That would really require, in my opinion, right, while we have earnings, that would require, in my opinion, we really need to have a massive beat by Microsoft, right? But Microsoft can't do it alone here, right? IGV is comprised of different, right, tech softwares, okay? And then, of course, over here on the stocks, so getting back into some technical analysis, we need to get back above that 529 level here in order to, one, just return to, in my opinion, what I would call an equilibrium state. Because right now, I mean, it's looking really scary, and I think we're seeing a lot of panic here again in the market with some of these sectors here. Have some tops and kind of bottoms marked out here. You could argue this is a triple top here, but again, it's really the same chart. Some of them look a little bit wonkier, but I mean, right, look here, you know, you just draw it in like kind of, I mean, just draw like how it is, right? So hump here, hump here, hump here, hump here, and kind of right here, hump, 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 right, and hump. So again, even though we're catching a bid here, right, in software, well, the tinfoil hat theory that I have is, right, I thought software was bearish, right? Whatever happened to Claude taking over, right? And the biggest argument, but also the killer to the argument right now still is always going to be CapEx, right? CapEx. And it's going to be, right, use case, right? Do I need Adobe, right? All these other stocks, do I need some of these other stocks? No. The only bullish scenario that we have here for the market here, right, is that we're going to have all these data centers that are going to be built. One of the things I've been telling people, right, is we need to start asking each other, where's the chips, right? Because we were talking about a few months ago how China was going to open up possibly its export ban, et cetera, right? We're going to get chips, you know, out kind of worldwide, and it just feels like a narrative, right, that they're selling to us, no different from, again, the COVID epidemic, to where like, hey, we have the chips, or excuse me, rather, we don't have the chips and we have a backlog. Well, how can you possibly open up these exports and all these other things, right, when you have a backlog, right? How can you now fulfill all these orders that are out there, right? So what, you're going to have a lot of data centers basically just kind of running empty. So, right, the problem here is, like, this is kind of contradictory, right? We have all this money we're spending, but what are you spending it on? You're spending it on, right? Because, right, you have invoices, right? So if some of us, right, we have jobs, we kind of do invoicing. Obviously, when you're talking like millions of dollars, you have quite some time to pay. Maybe for like a $5,000 invoice, right, you have 60 to 90 days to pay, depending on the companies you work for, right? But we have invoices. So there's a bunch of invoices sitting around that are unpaid, right? And obviously, why would they be unpaid? Because we don't have the product yet. They haven't even built the product, right? Because according to them, they don't have the chips. There's a backlog. So one of the things that I've always been talking to people about is kind of calling for transparency. You know, again, if this is so bullish, right, they haven't figured out a way, right, to kind of, I guess, move past this backlog issue, right? And I just find it fascinating that, right, that we've had data centers for, like, data centers aren't brand new. People think it's new, but they're not brand new. And again, I think the problem with that is, like, where was the backlog before? And so Micron's, it was either an auditor or it was one of their VPs. I have to fact check myself. Somebody can do it for me if they want. Really, when you kind of look at Micron's financials, I did put out a financial report on them. They literally say feast, right, or famine, right? You have feast or famine years, right? And you can actually see that right here, what happens and what's happened in the past here with Micron. So you look at the stock here, right? You literally have feast or famine years, right? It's about supply, right, and demand. That's what drives up a price. So the only argument, right, supporting basically all these stocks up here, sky high, is that we have supply, right, that's not there, but we have all this demand for it, right, because we have all these data centers, right? So what happens to, right, some of these companies, right, who are really depending on data centers? Because when you look at revenue on paper, right, for some of the financials from some of these individual companies, right? They always say the data centers are accounting for sometimes, 30% of the revenue or 40%. Well, how's that even possible, right? When half of these centers, right, there's new reports coming out, they're not, they're, did I spell that right? Data, looks weird. Looks like dada, like my son, right? Anyways, um, it, reports coming out that half these centers, right, they're reporting that they're making all this revenue is fake, right? And half these centers, right, they're not even built, but somehow they're reporting revenue. Odd report that came out, right? I'd have to verify the authenticity. People put out all sorts of kind of, right? But it kind of aligns with what I'm thinking about here, right? So one of the things that, again, I challenge traders to do, right, is come up with your own bias, right? Whether it's mine, whether it's somebody else's, but certainly put in a decent amount of time to kind of understand, right? We have CapEx. This company, right, is spending more money, right? But they're losing more money, so they're losing money. So if you're losing more money, for example, like Google, how can you afford to pay for these data centers, right? How can you even afford to pay the invoices? We are still forgetting that we couldn't support and even fund OpenAI. So that's like red flag number one. And again, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about yesterday, right? NVIDIA is the ringleader of it all. So when I clean all this off, right, NVIDIA is the ringleader of it all. So, now you're seeing a rotation to software, right? And you're seeing scary kind of movements here over in the stocks, right? You're going from, in stocks like Micron, you're going from 1,200, right, to 800 basically in about a month. So a $500 swing. That is absolutely, I think, not okay. It's ludicrous, but it's not okay, right? That's not normal, right? And I think we're all understanding that, but I think we're being told, right, it's normal because it's AI and it's this and that. Well, I know what bull markets look like, and they don't look like that, right? You don't have these ridiculous, drops. I mean, not even in .com were you moving up like that, but then you're gonna have somebody out there that's gonna like manipulate some data, kind of skew to how they, want it to be to kind of complete their argument, and I just don't agree with that. And again, I'm always gonna go back to these charts, guys. I want people to protect their capital. They're gonna try to get you with these charts here, right? They're gonna try to sell you on a dream. Crypto is it, right? Oracle is it. They have all these data centers, wrong. MicroStrategy is it. Adobe, right? Right? It's not just Adobe, right? People will try to play PayPal, stocks like this that kind of move up here. Excuse me, PYPL. And it's just not it, guys. It's really not, right? This stock, believe it or not, was at 300 to 1. I would encourage everybody to just go into ChatGPT or some of these other stocks here and look to see, how many of the same stocks that are doing the same thing are kind of out there, what their market caps and what their movements are, right? Because what happens 99% of the time, right, is you're stuck here at an IPO for years, you come back up, right, you double top, and then you go back down. And then you go nowhere, right? Again, my favorite charts here, right? This is on my last video, right? Nike. You went nowhere for nearly a decade. Actually, more than a decade, since 2013. It gets worse. I'm not going to go all the way back because my things, whatever. So, I would just encourage you guys to really try to kind of use your tinfoil hat. Try to be unique with how you see markets, guys. But again, my thesis right here, right, is the straight's closed, okay? And until we open the straight, we're going to have an issue with oil, right? Going back over to oil, we're going to have an issue with oil. Where's CL at? Sorry. I'll just type in CL here. We're continuing to have an issue with oil here, right? And again, what the problem here again is they're trying to tell you that they're trying to change the narratives, right? We already redefined what pandemics are. We've already redefined what recessions are. We already redefined what good wages are. We already redefined what a good economy is, right? They're going to try to trick you and redefine, right, what a good and a bad oil price is. So, when you see stuff like this, you really want to start paying attention. Like, what is happening here? Has this happened ever before in history? Yeah. Huh. When did it happen? Oh, interesting, right? Kind of go back throughout time here. 90s. Where is 2007 here? And I just, frankly, candidly, wouldn't be surprised here. Gonna clean off the chart here. Gonna remove all this noise. I just wouldn't be surprised if oil comes up and just rips its face off right here. And what does that correspond with? 2008. Because, I mean, this doesn't look bearish. I mean, it kind of looks like a flag of liquidity ready to break out. Obviously, again, we have this geopolitical nonsense going on with the strait being closed here, right? But for me, when you kind of look at COVID, when you kind of look at the recession here, when you kind of look at 2008 here, right? One would argue this is all manipulation, right? People think it's, oh, we have a bear market in 2022. We have to ask ourselves why. So when we have people like Google, right, fundraising and trying to raise capital, issuing bonds and all these other nonsensical things, Google, where's your money? Why can't you fund yourself? You make all this money. Dude, you literally own the internet, but you can't fund yourself. Do you know who they want you to fund? Excuse me, you know who they want really to fund them? You as an investor. Keep buying their stock so it goes up here. They're going to sell shares, right? And then you're going to be cooked. So that's what I really don't want to have happen here to a lot of people, but unfortunately, I think a lot will.
Well. Look who we got here.
See here, I put together a slideshow. Go ahead and post this in my Discord if you're interested in getting this. Just let me know. It's free and available. I've compiled the last 12 FOMC decision days here from 2025 all the way up here to present. So you can kind of just see how we move here on these past days. So one of my thoughts here kind of on the market is we usually have a really choppy day here. We chop, and then we drop, right? So last time on June 17th, we dropped, and you can just see this correlation here, right? What is the average here that you're seeing here? You don't really see any green days here, right? Very rare. We have one out of like basically, we have 1, 2, 3 out of 12. Not a really good percentage to kind of bank on, hey, you know, this is going to be really bullish, or we're going to have a really good day here. So if you're a new trader, I would really hope that you would use this information and really try to make good decisions here, right? Here we're kind of seeing that it's really dangerous and we're kind of chopping here. There's no reason to get involved, right? The market's going to resolve itself, but you don't have to get involved in the war. And again, no different from how I show you guys my charts here. You don't have to trade some of these stocks here, right? Again, right, I'd rather trade here in a 50-50 zone. I don't want to be tilted tomorrow, losing all these contracts where we have theta, right, all day long, right? I want to make sure that I'm protecting my capital. One of those things, right, is making sure that I'm not going to get involved in a day where we're having a ridiculous movement, or better yet, we're chopping, right? That's how you lose a lot of money, and that's the number one mistake that traders make on FOMC days. That's it. Really appreciate people leaving reviews and testimonials. It lets me know that my work here doesn't go unnoticed. I think sometimes I get a little bit frustrated, but as people have been kind of reminding me, just focus on my own journey, and that's what I'm trying to do here. Today, we called out 0 DTE calls. It was a bit of a difficult position to grab and kind of hold here. I did make a mistake at open, and we had to work ourselves kind of through some drawdown. And obviously, you know, thankfully it turned out to be a really good day here, but it was a little bit difficult. We started out overnight here calling SPX 7395 calls here, clearly up here $10 here. Held them till the morning, and we sold them in the morning for about looks like close to $1,700 here, $1,800 here. Then we called out QQQ calls here in the morning. I don't see a call out here, but at least I'll be honest about it. It wasn't a great call initially, so we had to average down, but thankfully we worked our way out with some drawdown. There's going to be a video attached here at the end, kind of showing you the play and how we managed it, and we did some education later in the day. I did call out one more play for free for the Discord here, looking to break pre-market highs and rip. I'm okay with losing, holding for minus 50%. At this point, I was at $5,963. Here you can see my account here. This is the current value right now. I'm going to go ahead and refresh it. You can see the numbers moving, but I'm going to do it again here. Refresh. Okay. And we walked away with a really sizable gain here. Not even with, let's see here. Okay, well, we had scalped for $2,000. I don't know where it is, but I'll just show you right here in the history here. So we scalped those calls here for 676 calls here for about $2,000 here. So that was a really good play here as well. And that play that we had this morning that we held for about, looks like, let me see here, 1 hour, and nope, we held these calls here, 675 calls here for about, oh, right here. We had these calls here, 675. We held for about an hour. We walked away with $336 here, but we were down $2,000 at one point, so we did have to work ourselves kind of out of that. So, not every position's great, right? Here you kind of see win rate. I tell people it's about being defined by risk and bound by rules, right? What is your risk to reward here in most of your positions here, right? I really like to take only A+ setups here. So this was some of my trade logs here from the day. So really pleasant here, and we can see our member gains right over here. Members seem to do really well today. It looks like we got another payout and another account pass. I'm trying to find our gain section here. Apologize. Running on fumes here. So gains here, starting from the bottom up. Joel made money. Joel made money again. More money from Slater. He looks like he took a $2,000 short on M&Q here overnight. Took some SPX shorts here as well for $1,000 here. Looks like J Bob again. He just got a payout yesterday. Looks like he made $1,400 today, and congratulations on your account pass. Looks like Dash Chuck here activated a funded account. He passed his account following me today. That's the person with the review. Chris here having another good day here with some micros. P&L was $747. Punk Beach also having a really good day here as well with these key calls. He did a lot better than me. I got a shittier entry, but I walked people and tried to at least help him as best I could here. Bang Bud from Void printing. J Bob again printing. Don printing. Max here printing. Good job, Bud. Fact Scrubber printing here with the calls. Alan printing. Trader printing. That's me, but I was forwarding some of these messages. Ronan printing. Sweets printing. Dash printing again on the account pass. Void, Don, Dash, Don, Chris, Moshi, Dash, Noob, walked away. Here's proof here that we're down $2,000. It was a difficult trade. He walked away with $273. No different from how I walked away, but basically close to $336 here. J Bob again just printing here. Here's his P&L following me here. 8,000 last week. So far he has 7,000 this week, and he got a payout right here. And then Slater here overnight taking those calls with me as well. So really good day. I'm going to show you the video here in a second. And I hope you guys have a blessed day. Stay tuned, stay live, stay alert, be bound by rules. You don't have to trade today. There's always another trade to trade, guys. Please don't overtrade. Hollow point out. Stay blessed.